Hello, this is Shawn O'Connor, founder and CEO of Stratus Prep, and I am very excited to welcome you to the Beat the GMAT and Stratus Prep presentation of Write Like an Expert, Columbia Business School. So today we are going to take you through our best advice for how to master your acceptance into Columbia. And at any point throughout the presentation, if you have a question, please go ahead and type that question into the question box in your toolbar, in your GoToWebinar toolbar, and I will be happy to get to it just as soon as I can. Also, following the webinar today, we will be having a chat party on the Columbia page on Beat the GMAT on the MBA Watch section. So please join us there for more questions and follow-up following the webinar this afternoon. All right, by way of agenda, first I'm going to kick it off with some introductions. For those of you who don't know me or don't know Stratus Prep, I'll go and introduce us so that you can get a little bit more information. Then we'll talk about what the Columbia essay prompts are and what Columbia is really looking for. And I'll also give you some tips on how you should go about tackling the writing step by step to make sure that you really have the most compelling application, which is what it takes to get in to Columbia. And then we will have some key takeaways, and then a very special partnership offer that I think you'll be very excited to see. It's something that we have never done before, so it is an unprecedented Beat the GMAT Stratus Prep partnership offer. Someone had asked if we will be able to have the webinar downloaded at the end. So we won't be able to download the webinar right away. It will be posted, I think, to the Beat the GMAT YouTube page in a few days, but it will not be immediately downloadable. All right, great. So as you may know, I am Shawn O'Connor, and about 8 years ago, I founded Stratus Prep in my dining room with just about $5,000 in savings, and now we are one of the largest, if not the largest, MBA admissions counseling firm in the world. I did both my JD and my MBA with honors at Harvard. And at Harvard Business School, I was a Baker Scholar, which is the top 5% of the class. I did my undergrad at Georgetown. I had a 780 on the GMAT. And before getting into admissions and test prep over a decade ago, I worked at McKinsey & Company and Lehman Brothers. I am the author of The Launching Pad on Forbes, which is an MBA admissions and entrepreneurship column. And I've also been featured regularly in the Wall Street Journal and Fortune and the Financial Times, as well as on CNN Money and in Business Week. So that's a little bit about me. And these are some of the places where we have been featured or where I have contributed recently. One that we haven't even had time to add is that we were actually just named to Inc.'s 5,000 fastest growing private companies in America. We were number 1,427, so we're very excited about that. And it's a testament to, the great service that we're always excited to provide to our clients and the word of mouth that has really helped the company grow to more than 40 team members today, working around the world and around the clock to help you into the best business schools in the world. And last year, we did work with students in 32 different countries, from Russia to China to Brazil to Australia to Nigeria. The only continent where we did not help folks last year was in Antarctica. So if you know anybody in Antarctica who is looking for an MBA, please have them call me so we can check off that 7th and final continent. We also worked with folks in 39 different U.S. states last year. So Stratus Prep offers both GMAT tutoring and MBA admissions counseling. And we have the most qualified team of experts, all of whom are full-time, to help you with both your GMAT prep and your MBA admissions counseling. In terms of GMAT, our GMAT tutors have all scored 770 or better. That is the top 1% on the GMAT. They've all graduated from top 5 programs, including Harvard, Stanford, Columbia. We have a former Columbia AdCom on our team. And then they all have at least 2 years of admissions experience or tutoring experience in the case of our GMAT tutors. And they are all full-time with us, as I mentioned. And that's why we are really able to get unprecedented results from our GMAT tutoring. I would say whether you use Stratus Prep or not, tutoring is the way to go on the GMAT. A class is likely to be a real waste of your time. And the reason for that is most people need help in very discrete areas in the verbal or the quant on the GMAT, and much of their class time is wasted on subjects that they knew very well already, and not enough time is spent in a class on the areas where they really need the most help. In terms of counselor qualifications, all of our MBA admissions counselors have also graduated from top 5 MBA programs and have at least 2 years of admissions experience, as well as 2 years successfully coaching applicants with Stratus Prep. And we use a team-based approach where you'll have a counselor who's typically working with just 5 to 10 clients per round, plus a school-specific reader for each of the schools that you're working on who has the school-specific expertise, plus professional proofreaders who all have masters or PhDs. And then I personally work with each and every applicant at Stratus Prep as your senior strategist, weighing in on your strategy, on your essay outlines, and conducting your final mock interview. Our Stratus Prep track record is really unparalleled. 80% of our clients on the GMAT, including some who started in the 400 and 500s. We had a woman who got into Columbia last year. She started at 560. We got her to over 700 on the GMAT. So 80% of our students on GMAT tutoring score 700 or better, and 90% score 650 or better. And our clients have an average increase of well in excess of 100 points. 99% of Stratus Prep students who get into, or who apply to at least 3 schools get into at least one of the schools of their choice. So if you work with us on 3 schools, your chances of getting into at least one of them is 99%. And since 2011, not only have we helped students into the schools of their choice, but we've helped them attain over $15 million in just 3 admission cycles in unsolicited merit-based aid. There is a lot of merit-based aid available out there. And I love this slide because it shows you the success rates of the schools generally, the admissions rate generally in blue, and then our success rate, our approximate lifetime success rate going all the way back to 2006 when I started the company, our approximate success rate at each of these schools. So at Harvard, we increase your chances from about 12% to about 6%, at Stanford from about 6 or 7% to about 40%, at Wharton from about 15% to about 70%, at Columbia from about 15 to 70% to about 70% as well. So really dramatic increases and that overall 99% success rate. So when you're applying to schools, and especially when you're applying to Columbia, one of the most competitive schools, and one that we know very well, being based here in New York, we send tens of students every year to Columbia, you're not competing against everybody who applies. You're competing against others who are very similar to you. So if you're a male who works in finance, who grew up in the U.S. and lives in New York, you're competing against another or other American males in finance in New York. If you're a woman in Brazil who works in consumer product marketing, you're competing against other consumer marketers who are women in South America. If you are an IT engineer, male in India, you're competing against other Indian male IT engineers because the schools need to have a diversity of people from different functional areas, people from different industries, people from different geographies. And so that's all very, very important. Some folks have said that they were having a little bit of trouble hearing the audio. I'm not getting any error messages here, but I'll try to speak up. And if you have any trouble hearing or you have any questions of something you missed, please just let me know. Okay. So in terms of the Stratus Prep approach, the Stratus Prep checklist, these are the things that we go through with each of our applicants to any school, whether it's Columbia or any other school. We start with school selection, and you choose the schools when you work with Stratus Prep. We'll give you lots of advice, lots of suggestions if you'd like. We'll help you group the schools into stretches, targets, safeties, but you make the ultimate choice of the schools that you want to apply to. Then we go through a very in-depth introspection exercise that consists of 4 different individual exercises that help us understand who you are personally, who you are professionally, who you are academically, who you are in terms of extracurriculars, and where you really want to go and what you really want to do in order to be successful in the MBA admissions process. Then from that, we develop your personal story, your personal branding strategy for how we are going to sell your application to the schools to make sure that you are successful where so many others are not. Then we work with you hand in hand to outline your essays. And then after you write the essays, then we extensively edit them. Your counselor edits them. Our school-specific experts edit them. And then ultimately, our proofreaders edit them. We'll help you with selecting and coaching your recommenders. And then you're ready to submit. We also review all of the short answer questions and all of the other components of the application. And then after you apply, we help you with preparing for interviews, whether those are live interviews, taped interviews, video interviews. We help you with financial aid, negotiating between the schools to maximize your financial aid. And that's how we have our 99% success rate if you work with us on Scale More Schools, is because we have about a 200-page methodology that we go through, that we utilize to make sure that no stone is left unturned, that you have been given excellent service, and that you have done everything possible to get into the schools of your choice. Okay? And we never stop. We'll help you if you're on a wait list. Last year we had folks submitted from the wait list to both Stanford and Wharton. So, if you're on a wait list, all is not lost. There is a lot that you can do to get in from the wait list, and we will help you do those things. So we are with you from the start all the way through your process, helping you get into your stress schools, get into your dream schools, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, Columbia, whatever the case may be, and then trying to maximize your financial aid. Last year we had full ride at Wharton, Columbia, MIT, Chicago. That's pretty impressive when you consider that Harvard and Stanford do not offer any merit-based scholarships, only need-based scholarships at Harvard and Stanford. So now I'm excited to share with you our expert guide to Columbia Business School. So first, there are a lot of essay prompts for Columbia. It's not one of those schools that has been cutting back. So first, you'll have a very brief 75-character short answer. Then you'll have one long and two shorter essays. And then the optional essay, which is not to be used unless absolutely necessary, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So first, let's go over the short answer. And I want to share with you not only what the short answer is, but then how you're going to be successful on it. So what is your immediate post-MBA professional goal? And they want you to do this in just 75 characters. And the important thing is to be very specific in terms of what industry you want to be in. Okay, so do you want to be in consumer packaged goods? Do you want to be in automotive? Do you want to be in financial services? Do you want to be in consulting? And then what function do you want to have? Do you want to work in finance or marketing or business development or operations or human capital? So you've got to give them an industry and a function. Now, if you're able to fit in a position or a certain leadership development program, that's great as well, an LDP. But you may not be able to fit that in with 75 characters. But what you must fit in is the industry and the function. And so they give us some examples. So business development for a media corporation, a consulting firm specializing in renewables. I don't like our clients to do consulting because so many people say consulting. It makes it so much harder to get in when you say that you want to do consulting. Investment firm working on real estate. So you can see that we're always seeing function and industry. If you can fit in position as well or a specific program, that'll make you stand out. Try not to do things that are too ubiquitous, that are overused, like consulting, investment banking, and private equity. All right, so that's just sort of the very brief, tidbit to give them a sense of where you're heading with your career and, why you want to pursue the MBA at the highest possible level. Then they want to know, given your individual background and goals, why do you want to pursue a Columbia MBA at this time? So that requires three parts. There are three parts to this question. What are your goals, short and long term? And even though you've already very briefly described short term, you're going to want to reiterate it here. And then what is the background that you'll bring? You're going to want to be very brief about that because it's already covered on your resume. And then the large part, about 300 of the 500 words, should be why a Columbia MBA. Not why an MBA generally, but why a Columbia MBA, and you got to be specific. All right, so first, as I said, focus on your short and long-term goals. Then briefly touch on how your past experience has helped to prepare you for these goals. Now, hopefully, your past experience has prepared you somewhat, but not completely, right? Because if you're completely prepared from your past experience, well, then there's no reason to go get the MBA. And then you want to speak about why a Columbia MBA. You don't want to talk about generally why an MBA and then talk about why Columbia. That is a big, terrible mistake. Columbia is a yield-protecting school. They are a school that cares a lot about their yield. And so they want to make sure that you're really going to come to Columbia if you're admitted. So you don't want to say why I need an MBA and, oh, well, why Columbia is good. You want to convince them that Columbia is the only school for you. It is the only place where you can attain your goals. And you got to be specific. If you're looking at entrepreneurship, I want to hear about the Lang Center for Entrepreneurship, Columbia Business Labs. I want to hear about Columbia Greenhouse, okay? If you are planning to do finance, I want to hear about the investment club, and I want to hear about the value investing program at Columbia, all right? If you want to do consumer marketing, I want to hear about the opportunity to learn from leaders at Unilever and Colgate-Palmolive, and I want to hear about specific consumer marketing classes that you want to take. All right, next, essay number 2. How will you take advantage of being at the very center of business? And then you watch this very nice video about how Columbia is at the very center of business, given its location in New York City. And so what you want to do is first you want to focus on how New York is going to give you unique aspects to diverse business people, diverse leaders, diverse consumers, because of New York really being this hub of so many different industries, from advertising to finance to fashion to entertainment and media. Then you want to talk about how New York City is going to provide the optimal learning environment and the optimal social environment to build lifelong learning relationships and friendships with your classmates. And then finally, you want to relate the New York location of Columbia to how it's going to specifically support your goals. So if it's in fashion, the fastest. Fashion Week is here, and so many fashion houses are here in New York, critically important. If you're interested in entrepreneurship, the fact that General Assembly and Silicon Alley and Foursquare are here, that's going to be what you're going to sell on. If it's about, finance, the fact that the leading financial firms, whether investment banks or asset managers or private equity firms are based here, that's going to be critically important. Okay? Now, someone had asked if another person had asked if the presentation will be uploaded, and it will be. This video will be uploaded, but not for a few days. Okay, so it'll be uploaded to the Beat the GMAT YouTube page, but it is going to take some time, so it won't be available like later today. Essay number 3. What will the people in your cluster, which is the name for section, okay, at Columbia, what will the people in your section be really excited about? Okay, what will they want to learn about? Okay, and so it's got to be something pleasant. Sometimes people are like, well, I want to tell them about how I helped my mom battle through cancer. Well, that's great, and I'm really happy that you had that opportunity to be there for your mother, and I can't imagine how difficult and challenging that must have been. But that is not the right answer to this question. They're looking for something fun, something positive. They don't want something that's academically focused. They don't want something that's professionally focused. They already covered that in the first 2 questions, as well as the short answer. Okay, what they are looking for here is, I make a mean guacamole, and here's how I do it, and I'm really excited to share this with my cluster mates and have interesting discussions about our backgrounds and where we come from and how that has impacted our perspectives over that guacamole, right? Something that's really fun and interesting, something that's an anecdote that's going to show how you're going to build a community, right? Columbia, like NYU, like UCLA, these are urban campuses. They need people who will build community, because it's not like being at Tufts, where you have your own community completely separate and divorced from the rest of the world. They need to build community. They need to get people involved and interested and excited and get them onto campus, spending lots of time there. And so you want to show something that is fun, that's interesting, that's different, that's unique. Okay, you've got to differentiate yourself here. There should be something that nobody else is right about. It's got to be something positive, and then it's got to be something that's going to show how you will build community. Now, the optional essay, an optional 4th essay, will allow you to discuss any issues that do not fall within the purview of the required essays. This is not like the Wharton optional essay. So at Wharton, they want you to write the optional essay, okay, and you should write it about something personal. If you have more questions about that, you can let me know. But Wharton wants you to write the optional essay. Columbia does not. Columbia has given you 1,000 words. They've given you a short answer and 4 questions. You should only need the 3 required questions plus the short answer. The only reason to use the optional essay is not to share some other crazy fact about you. That's what we had the last question. Question number 3 is to explain something that can be legitimately explained that is necessary for them to make an accurate assessment of your profile. So maybe you have a low GMAT score or a low quant GMAT score, but you have a legitimate explanation for that. Or maybe you're going to be taking the GMAT again in a week and you want to explain about that. Or maybe you have a gap in your work experience or in your academic studies and you need to explain what happened during that gap. These are the kinds of things that you would use the optional essay and should use the optional essay for at Columbia. But you should not use it to just post in another essay, another personal essay, something you used at another school, your Harvard essay, your NYU, create a presentation. That is not what they want here, okay? They want a short, concise, doesn't matter how many words they're giving you. They want short, concise, like 50 words, just a clear-cut, clean explanation of something that is not otherwise explained in your application. So how do we go about putting together that really, really powerful Columbia application? Well, first, you need to introspect. You need to brainstorm, and this is something that our team works hand in hand with all of our clients on. You need to understand your strengths and weaknesses and how you can improve your profile over the next 6, 8, 10 weeks. You need to understand what the schools are looking for, the inside sort of relative strengths and relative weaknesses of, different schools and what they look for, because I can tell you what Columbia looks for is completely different from what Harvard looks for, which is completely different from what Stanford looks for, which is completely different from what Kellogg is looking for. Then you've got to get some assistance in finding the best schools that match your particular interests and needs. Then we have extensive discussions with you about topics for your essays and your goals and why you want to do these goals and what personal anecdotes we want to bring in. Then we've got to review and edit all of the essays and the short answer questions, those as part of the application and those as part of the essays. We've got to help you pick the right recommenders, help you get the very best letters of recommendation. And we've got to prepare you for the live and the video interviews, and those taped video interviews like at Kellogg are something to be very concerned about. Then we need to have a game plan if you get waitlisted anywhere, and then do a winning strategy for negotiating the top possible financial aid award, which can be full scholarship at these schools. So I wanted to share with you a couple of success stories. I've just got a couple more slides, and then I will take the rest of your questions. So these are folks that we worked with who got into Columbia and or other schools as well. So you see Rohan, one of our good friends from India. We work with many, many clients from India each and every year. He went to non-IIT. He had a relatively low 3.0 when adjusted by WES, World Education Service, from the Indian GPA system to the US MBA system. He had a 670 on the GMAT. He was a former consultant turned entrepreneur, and he got into both HBS and Columbia. He ended up deciding to go to HBS. Then we have Alex. She was from a small liberal arts college, 3.4 and a 640. Okay. She did 2 years in finance, also got into HBS and Columbia. Very compelling essays that really set her apart, even though her numbers were low. Sally went to a top 50 state university. When she first walked in our door, she had a 550 on the GMAT. We worked with her, got her up to 700. She had a 3.0 from that state university, and she had been working in the education space. She got into Columbia. And then finally, Jonathan, also with a low GPA, a 3.0. And I picked these examples to show you that Columbia, unlike Harvard and Stanford, is very sympathetic to 2.9, 3.0s, 3.1s, even when you don't have over 700. And he got in from a top 25 undergraduate college to Columbia. So the key takeaways are, first, recognize that it is tough to get into business school. And if you're applying early decision, it's a little easier at Columbia. Early decision is a big deal at Columbia, okay? They take about 35 to 50% of their class in early decision. So if it's your first or even your second choice, you may want to think about applying early decision on October the 8th. You will be bound. You've got to go if accepted, but it'll dramatically increase your chances. You want to budget enough time by being prepared, okay? So you want to be prepared and budget enough time. Then you want to talk about something new, something differentiated in each of your essays, something that's really going to set you apart. And then I think it would be crazy not to apply with the help of seasoned experts, people who do this time and time again, who can really dramatically increase your chances. You know, about 57% of people use a consultant when applying to business school. So using a consultant doesn't give you a huge advantage, but using the right consultants, those that are really, really strong, really know the schools inside and out, have that admissions experience, that's what's really going to make the difference. So our exclusive partnership offer, and this is good only until Sunday night at 11:59 Eastern. And we previewed this with our own email listserv, and the response has been tremendous. So we will not be extending this offer, okay? What we are offering is if you buy 3 schools at the regular full price, we will give you 5 schools instead of 3. So you buy 3, you get 2 for free. That is a savings of about $2,500. If you buy 4 schools, we will give you 3 free schools for a total of 7. Okay, so buy 4 schools at the regular price, and you will have 7 schools of help from Stratus Prep. Okay? And you might say, I don't need 7 schools. But remember, the more schools you apply to, the more chances of getting financial aid, which we can then use to negotiate with the schools you really want to go to extract the maximum amount of money out of them. Okay? And so if you want to sign up for this, okay, you can go ahead and give us a call at 212-307-1788, or you can buy the 3 or 4 school package at the regular full price on the website and just put in the notes, beat the GMAT or BTG promotion or anything like that, and you will get the extra schools for free. This will be good until 11:59 Eastern on Sunday night, which is the 31st. We did the 31st to make it easy to remember. So it's 11:59 Eastern time. If you buy 3 or more schools, we also give you our guarantee. Because we have a 99% success rate when people apply to 3 or more schools, if you apply to 3 or more schools and you don't get into at least one of them, we will work with you for free next year on the same number of schools. So if you buy 3 schools, you'll get 5. Highly unlikely, less than 1/2 of 1% chance. But if somehow you don't get in, you get 5 free schools next year. You buy 2 schools, we can't make the guarantee. Because 1 or 2 schools, it could be, that it's just a fluke. But 3 or more schools, we guarantee you results. Also, if you have not done a free 30-minute consultation with me in the past, we are happy to set up a free 30-minute consultation, and we can do that before the deadline expires on August the 31st at 11:59. And as always, references are available. So you want references at Columbia, at Harvard, you let us know. We'll make it happen. Okay? So you can email us to get this set up at consult@stratusprep.com. You can check us out on the web at www.stratusprep or give us a call at 212-307-1788. And as I said, we will not be able to extend this discount. All right. I'm wondering how being 30 will affect my overall MBA application. So that was a question that I received during the webinar. And it does make it a little bit more difficult, not so much at schools like Columbia or Chicago or MIT, but at schools like Harvard and Stanford, it does make it tougher as they prefer applicants who are closer to 26, 25, 26, 27. That's really where the bulk of their applicants come from. But the key thing, and we've helped people much older than 30 get into top schools, the key thing is that you make the argument as to why you really need to go to this school at this point, at this time in your life. And if you make that argument well, you are going to be in great shape. Okay? All right. So the key is don't worry about your numerical age or your years of experience. Pick your schools carefully and then make the argument for why you are at the ideal moment right now in your life to get into the schools of your choice. If I'm working with family with my current job, tackling, running, and opening a factory in China, however, how should I make use of my references or recommendations, my previous job that has no family affiliation? So we work with a lot of applicants from family businesses. And so what I would do is, in the first instance, I would have one from your current job and one from your former job. Obviously, you can't use a family member, but you could use the company's general counsel. If you had to, it's not my first preference, but you could use a client. A supplier would actually be better than a client. So we would work with you to come up with a creative alternative that you can use. Okay? Now, another question was, I'm a reapplicant. What if I change my goals from the first time I applied? So, that is totally fine. You can change your goals. There is a reapplicant essay, and so you'll want to explain how you came to these you want to explain why you, how you sort of came to this conclusion, why you made this pivot, but it is totally fine to have rethought your goals. All right. This next one is from, see here, Shawn, you are truly the best in your industry. I'm sure we'll be joining you early next year. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the compliment. We do strive to be the very best in the industry, and I think our results and our growth demonstrate that. I would suggest, however, maybe taking advantage of the offer now, because this offer will not be coming back for next year. So take advantage of this offer now, get signed up before Sunday night, and then you will have us working with you all over the entire next year. And there is a lot that we can do. Some of our most successful applicants, the people who got into HBS with like a 590, they worked with us for a full year in advance doing profile development. They didn't pay an extra dollar more for that, but we were helping them get the right profile in terms of nonprofits and extra classes to take and job projects to ask for and how to best, position themselves for promotions and all different sorts of things like that. So for those of you applying next year, it is never too early to get started. We can make a huge difference by getting started today. And you get the benefit of the promotion. How do you adjust CGPAs from different parts of the world and different institutions? You mentioned a scale that Rohan used to convert his Indian GPA to a U.S. GPA. Yes, it's called World Education Service, WES.org, and they will be able to help you with that. They'll be able to help you to, best position you for success. Okay, great. Then I have a question from one of our current clients. So it's always good to see current clients here as well. So what are the main differences between HBS, GSB, Wharton, and Columbia in terms of what they're looking for? That is a great question. So thank you so much for that. And so basically, the right answer is HBS is looking for global entrepreneurial leaders. They want to see people who are leaders, who are thinking entrepreneurially, who are thinking globally. Stanford is looking for innovative collaborators. They're looking for people who work well together, who innovate, who have a passion for innovation, entrepreneurship, technology. But they don't necessarily want to see the same type of leadership from above, leadership from below, that HBS wants. Then Wharton, really you want to emphasize analytical problem solving. And then finally, with Columbia, they want to see people who are passionate about a certain industry, have really thought through how New York will define their MBA experience and allow them to pursue with vigor and enthusiasm that particular industry. So very different things the schools are looking for. That is a great question. How difficult is it for a college senior to get into CBS? College seniors get in every year. It's tough. You have to do a great job in terms of showing that you have the maturity, the poise, the leadership, the industry focus, the writing abilities, the intuitive abilities to be successful. But you definitely can do it, and we've helped people do it, I think, pretty much every year. So we'd be happy to help. Feel free to let us know if you're interested in a free consultation. To set that up, you can just email us at consult@stratusprep.com or give us a call at 212-307-1788. If I apply in November for Columbia with a GPA of 3.0, so you can still be very competitive in November. It's obviously easier to get in if you apply in the early decision round, but then you are bound to Columbia. As an overrepresented demographic, a white male in finance, would it be more advantageous to miss early admission and retake the GMAT, or to apply with my current 680? I think you can apply with that current 680. I think it's much more important that you put together a really stellar application. We've had many males from overrepresented groups in finance in New York City that we have worked with who've gotten in not only to Columbia with 680s, but to Harvard and to Wharton. So I am a male IT engineer from India, an overrepresented group who wants to make the switch from IT to the media industry in order to pursue my passion of film production. Is it all right to go ahead and mention such a dramatic shift in my essays and application? So you definitely can do that, although I would, I'm not sure that film production is probably the best thing to say, just because you don't necessarily need an MBA from that. So maybe something more about media and arts management. I'd want to think about that. But you definitely can make that move and talk about making that move. as long as you can illustrate sort of how the school is best positioned and well positioned to help you along along that road. All right. And then somebody asked, they moved from the Middle East to New York about a year ago. They have a 3.0 in engineering. They're waiting on their GMAT, and they have about 2 years of experience. And can they apply in November? Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be, obviously you want to do well on the GMAT, but, in addition to doing well on the GMAT, you want to really put together a stellar application, because if you're applying in November, that's going to make all the difference. Can you speak to what writing style to use? Can you be overly verbose or stylized, or does that hinder your essay? Should you try to write the best essay or try to write as simply as possible? Well, I would argue that you can write simply. You don't want to use big words for the sake of using big words or something like that. What you want to do is you want to write from the heart in a really authentic way. Writing should flow. It should be compelling, like a great novel. It sucks the reader in and really makes you want to keep reading. So I think that is definitely, the writing can be simple, but it's got to be compelling and exciting and really pull the reader in. All right, great. Somebody else said thank you so much for this, and I appreciate that. Somebody else was talking about how Wharton is different in its focus on analytics versus Duke with its focus on community. And they were asking what type of students is Columbia looking for. So Columbia is sort of a mix. They like people with a general management focus. So, even if you're going into finance, you should understand that finance does require, finance does require a certain understanding of all the other business functions, right? Because that's how the companies make money, which is what finance is focusing on. So you need to understand the strategy and the marketing and all the other parts of business, human capital, operations, if you're going to be great at finance. They like people with clear industry foci, and with industry foci that are particularly well suited to New York in particular, like related to entertainment or media or finance or entrepreneurship, technology, et cetera. If you're going to apply in round 2, is there any disadvantages compared to round 1? Well, at most schools, no. Like at Harvard, there's not a huge disadvantage. Neither at Stanford. At MIT, there is. You really want to try to do round 1 at MIT if you can. But, of course, Columbia does not have round 1 and round 2. They just have the early decision date, which is October 8th, and then regular admission is rolling. We suggest trying to apply in the first 15 days of November if you're not going to do early decision. All right. Somebody said I had a low GPA in undergrad around a 3.0. For the first 2 years, I had to work 2 jobs to help my family after my father lost his job and was unemployed. I don't want to use this as an excuse, but how do I explain my low GPA, especially as I'm now 6 years out? I think you should just be very straightforward. The schools will be very understanding of that. So I think that you should just very briefly in the optional essay explain that. Okay. And then somebody asked about, what about January entry? What are the odds compared to September for what kind of candidate? So January entry is good if you're staying in the same industry because you give up the chance to have an internship. So if you're going to be changing industries, you do not want to apply for January intake. If you're going to be staying in the same industry, that can work. Now, January, some years it's less competitive because a lot of people don't want to start in January, but some years it can be more competitive. We're seeing a lot of January applicants this year. The deadline is October the 8th. That's the absolute final deadline. It is rolling up until then, so apply whenever you're ready. The class is much smaller in in January. So it's like about 150 people. The class is much larger in September, about 3 times bigger than that. So what you want to do is, apply to the right program. But what I would say is only consider January if you are staying in the same industry. You have read that mentioning the PE industry as a goal could be a shortcoming. Is that true? Yes. Not so much at Columbia or MIT or Chicago Booth, but at specific schools that have more of a bias against finance, like a Harvard, perhaps a Kellogg, a Stanford, you may not want to mention PE as your end goal. I'm a black female architect looking to get an MBA, but I don't have an interesting personal story. What can I do to look more appealing since I have middle-of-the-road schools and GPA? So I don't know you well enough to know, but I know there's an interesting background, an interesting story in there. We just need to find it. And that's sort of what our introspection process is all about. But, you know, it doesn't have to be that you grew up in tough circumstances or something like that. We all have interesting stories. I didn't have any of those, but one of my essays was about snow skiing, but it was really unique and different and interesting, and I credit it for helping me to get into HBS. Does Columbia mind a more personal style versus more business-like? Columbia is a little bit more business-like, except for the last question. Other schools like Harvard and especially Stanford and Kellogg would prefer more of a personal style. I recently made a career switch from IT to finance, and I currently have 2 years of work experience and a 700. Would I be a suitable candidate to top 10 schools, or does my recent switch pose a problem? Not at all. I mean, it's going to be about how you speak about what you've done and where you want to go, and that'll be something that you'll want to do in the application essay, obviously the first essay for Columbia. But that is not something, that switch is not something that would preclude you from being competitive this year. We have many career switchers, even people who career switch even later than you are, you know, right near the deadline, and they still get through if they do it appropriately. So just as a reminder of our exclusive partnership offer, good until Sunday the 31st at 11:59 Eastern only. If you buy 3 schools at the regular price, we will be giving you 2 additional schools for free. Just put in the notes if you buy online, BTG offer. If you buy 4 schools, you will get 3 schools for free as long as you put in the notes BTG offer. Okay? You can also go ahead and give us a call. Folks will be available today, tomorrow, and both Saturday and Sunday because we are having a massive response to this offer because we've never done anything like it. And given this response, I'm not sure that we'll do anything like it again for quite some long time. So you can give us a call at 212-307-1788. Also remember that when you apply to 3 or more schools, we do offer you our guarantee, which is if you don't get into at least one of those schools, like 99% of our applicants, because there is 1% that don't, we will work with you for free next year on the same number of schools. And remember that references are always available, and we are offering consultations, you know, today, tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday to help you with the decision-making process, okay? Before you decide if you want to take us up on the buy 3, get 2 free offer or the buy 4, get 3 free offer. I have a GPA of 2.97 from Columbia and a 720. I have global work experience, but only for 2 years. Extensive extracurricular, would be Columbia be suited for me? Yeah, absolutely. I would also look at Kellogg. I would also look at Wharton. So I think that those would be great options for you as well. What is the cutoff below which a GPA needs to be addressed in the optional essay? Conversely, what is the cutoff above which it's probably not worth highlighting or explaining? I would explain anything lower than like a 3.1. So 3.1, above that, you don't need to explain it. Below that, I would explain it. With regards to selecting recommenders, if other than my direct supervisors, my options are between somebody relatively senior with whom I work on almost a daily basis versus the CEO of my company with whom I have a good relationship. Who should I choose? There's no way I can tell you that without getting to know your backgrounds and getting to know, you know, a lot more about you and about these 2 recommenders and what specifically they would say and who your other recommender is going to be. So, you know, what I will say in general is don't pick based on title. Pick based on what the person can say about you and how enthusiastic they're going to be about your application. Okay. When should I retake the GMAT? Should I retake a 710? Well, it really depends, you know, how you scored on the quant. If you scored well on the quant, I don't think you need to retake it. If the quant was under like 70th percentile, I probably would retake it. I wrote the GMAT twice. I scored a 690 on my first try, but ended up scoring poorly on my second try of 620, which I wrote 2 years later. Is this going to raise questions even if I submit the first score? Well, they're going to see both scores. So you don't need to necessarily explain what happened. they're just going to consider the first score because it's the highest score. But, you know, it's not going to raise questions. But, you know, I think that, you know, they're going to take the higher score. So that's not something I would worry about. Great. Well, I think we have exhausted all of your wonderful questions. Thank you so much for that. We have a complimentary 30-minute consultation with me available. So just go ahead and email us. You can only do it once. If you've already done it, please do not try to do it again. We do keep track. So you can email us at consult@stratusprep.com or 212-307-1788 to help set that up. And then if you buy 3 schools, we'll help you with 2 additional schools. If you buy 4 schools, then we will help you with 3 additional schools. When signing up online, just put BTG promotion in your in the notes, and you will be sure to get those extra schools. Remember that if you buy 3 or more schools, we also give you our guarantee. Okay, and references are always available. All right, there's a couple of other questions that came in, so let me just finish these up. How much weightage for the quant and the English? So the schools like Columbia, MIT, Chicago that are a little more quantitative, they're going to, you know, probably put 70% of the weighting on the quant. It's definitely more important. The overall is important and the quant is important. No school puts a lot of weight on the English in particular. How many times is too many times to retake the GMAT? Probably more than 4. All right, what about, somebody said here with a 47 quant, which is the 68th percentile, how do you qualify that with work experience? I'm a CPA with a finance background. Would CBS be okay with this? I'd rather have a slightly higher quant. They'll be a little concerned about that. It's not a game changer. Like Wharton, they're really looking for 80th percentile, so that would be a real problem at Wharton. So you're going to need to retake it for Wharton if you're applying there. It's not a terrible thing for Columbia, but I would like to see a little higher. I think they will have some concern. All right, great. Well, we look forward to seeing you on the chat party on the Beat the GMAT site. So go ahead to the Columbia wall and join us there to continue the conversation in the MBA Watch section of Beat the GMAT. We'll be there to answer your questions. And then let's go from there. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.